So must be thorough. That is how this test is different. So what all you would do, friends, now? You will pick up an issue. And there would be not one issue. In my opinion, there would be 40 issues. In a day, you should be able to write down these issues on a piece of paper and start articulating in your mind, if this question is asked you, what kind of answer you will give. And repeat that answer in your mind. Speak and say. In one day, you can easily cover 4 or 5 areas. And if you think you started talking about collection of revenue, collection of taxes in this country, you can ask 5, 6, 7 questions. Or you start talking about election reforms. You can formulate 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 questions of quality and start answering. And wherever you think you don't know, read. So what is the practice for you now? What is the correct practice? Identify, starting from Government of India policies, starting from state policies, starting from current events which are having a large impact, such as Ukraine and Russia, such as China's incursion in Ladakh, such as our relationship with neighbors, such as election reforms, such as climate control, such as the Indian budget, the dimension, and things like that. Now, these are the questions you have to reach. Now, I'll stop at this point of time. I am open to questions. I have actually gave you a full recipe and caution you wherever possible. Now, open to questions and discussion. Yes, please. Who will start discussion? Okay, I can keep on going and on and on. That doesn't help. Would somebody summarize what did I say in points?
Sir, one of
Is
the
one of the candidates
asked
ready
the
to
question.
summarize?
Sir, one of the candidates has asked the question.
Yeah, please, what is the
Can I?
question? Yeah.
So how far is the ideological stand, like say, standing with core liberalistic points when criticizing or supporting government policies, or taking the socialistic stance to develop the opinions over time? Do you suggest?
If you can tell me what question will you be asked to him, why he thinks so, which question he is going to respond related to that. Can you ask me a question on that? Let him ask me a question. Who is he? He can.
I think
put,
they have.
He can put on his camera on.
Not sure, sir. They have sent it prior, I think.
Anybody want to ask this question? Now, you tell me which question will be asked to him, for which he is asking me this question.
So maybe coming to the war, how far?
It's a Ukraine. I've given a question. It's a Ukraine question.
Yes.
Sir, excuse me, sir.
Now, what would you say? You would simply say, there's no ideology involved here. It's only our relationship, what is on the foreign policy. What are the 10, like for example, our tenet of policy was that we are not aligned to any other country. But depending on interests of our country, we have developed our relations. We have relationship with Russia, we have relationship with America. Now, in that litmus test, you will test the steps of the government. Whatever social media say, don't go by it. You have to read it carefully. Whatever relationship with US, whatever relationship with Russia, and also know why this is happening. Why Ukraine war? Do you know the central point why this all started? How many of you know the central point of the war? So if you read it carefully, yeah, please.
Because Ukraine wants to join with NATO and the Western countries, but Russia doesn't want to allow Ukraine to join it because it has its own rivalries with US. So it will be like bringing your own enemies towards your door. So that is why initially it all started.
I think, could you really more refine? Firstly, when they became separate countries, there were certain treaties. And one was this NATO issue. Secondly, what is NATO after all? What is the NATO? And when was it formed? Now, how the questions would start. When was NATO formed? And what was the considerations? Who could have become members of NATO? There was a parallel body called C2. What is NATO? North Atlantic Treaty Organization. Is that correct? Now,
Yes, sir.
what was the condition? Who were the part of NATO? NATO were part of the country who were American allies in the war. And what the agreement was that the US would provide its own army into these countries to safeguard. So in the interest of safeguarding, in NATO countries, the allies has made their forces present. Now that actually has happened. Now therefore for Russia, it was not accepted. We have to look at when the disintegration, it was not actually these countries became disintegrated. It is the choice of Russia at that time to make them free. Glasnost, you remember that? So you remember some of those days when Russia let these countries go separate. Under those, there were certain treaties and agreements. And obviously, when it becomes part of NATO, it obviously means that American forces are on the border. So we are again going to the same situation that we are making a bloc where there are people who are empowered militarily. Now you take your position. What Foreign Affairs have said, if you read it carefully, you can take your position. And nobody minds whatever you say. Now you understand what I'm saying? If you don't know NATO, how would you answer? If you don't know how it had come, because people believe that if it escalates, it can escalate to a third world war. You can also take the stand China is taking in this case. Don't go by what our social media is saying, because our social media is cluttered today. And what you continue to see is one picture with some of the people who are personally in favor of the PM himself, people are writing. So please get it full view. What UPSC doesn't want every time that you praise the Prime Minister in each of the question. That's not the worry. Because today you're becoming a bureaucrat. Our Prime Minister would be another 10 years, for example. I'm just thinking loud. So he'll be by that time 85, and you still have 20 more years left. So please understand, bureaucracy by nature is not politically aligned. In India, bureaucracy lives in an iron curtain where you are not aligned to a political party. Please understand. So UPSC does not want to judge whether you're aligned to a party or not. It is never ever is the UPSC's concern. UPSC wants you, a future bureaucrats. If you are taken today, in your age of 23, 24, 25, you have 35 years more. Every year, new party would come, a new government would come. Can you see the perspective now? So why should he be fearful? Tell me. Am I right, Rakul?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So this whole question should come to your mind. Because today's bureaucrat does not mean he will not serve to third party tomorrow. Can you? How many bureaucrats have resigned if they were not happy with the present government? Nobody has resigned. Because by and large, the government, the bureaucrats does not work with party lines. They work with the government because government of the day makes the policy. And they are also part of the policy making. And they tend to advise government. But mind you, they only advise. Policy is made by the government. And government is elected representative to whom you support. Is that correct? What is the government? Elected representative people sitting in parliament forms a government under a prime minister who is the leader of a political party. Based on this majority and discussion in parliament, a policy is made. You only implement the policy. Before the policy is made, your view is asked. Please give us your view. And therefore, each department comes with a view. Secretary of that department sits in the cabinet committee along with this cabinet minister, where these discussions are on. You are supposed to speak then also in writing. So there is a freedom available for everybody to say what you want to say. So if you're an honest and fearless person, you will give facts. A bureaucrat gives facts in the past practices. Is that correct? So your concern, your answer would be based on facts. Answer would be based on past practices. Answer would be based on the previous history and learning correctly, putting them in perspective.